The following podcast is a presentation of Project Entertainment Network.
Welcome to Vicious Whispers with Mark Tullius, your source for horror, sci-fi, suspense, and all things violent.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thank you so much for joining me today. Today's episode, we have a very special guest, my longtime friend, Marc Saenz. Marc, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
That's cool. Dude, it's cool just to see you. Fuck, I haven't seen you in a long time. Dude, I always...
COVID, it's no fun.
I feel so guilty, too. I'm like, fuck. I was like, I never see him. I was like, well, that motherfucker also doesn't ever see me.
Yeah, no, but we're in rare times right now, too, you know, trying to keep it safe and sound, so...
And even dude, even in the way back when, I don't know. I think we could just get dude, you got so much going on with the hockey and everything else. It's like fuck work. Yeah. I don't know about the work part about but everything else I can relate to.
Nah, it sucks being a grown-up, dude. Sometimes anyway. That's
true. All right, the reason I wanted you on today is to talk about metal. And it could even just be about music and why music's been important to you. And also, so not only find out about why heavy metal has been important to you, but also you could maybe fill me in on some memories I might have forgotten. Because just trying to think about it, I've remembered a couple. I remember like Steve and his shoe, but you could fill me in on that stuff.
Do my best.
So let's get started, dude. Let's and for listeners out there, Marc and I met freshman year in high school, football, so before the season even started.
Freshman year, man. Bishop Amat getting ready to start football training, summer, early morning summer practices.
Dude, and that was brutal. I had no idea what was going to happen. I had no idea what to expect, and
didn't know many people, so it was cool. We were in the same early morning period, and we just started hanging out.
What were you into at that time, and when did you start finding a love for music and heavier music?
Oh, dude, for me it really started with heavy music. That's early on, that's what really got me started. So, I was thinking about this, knowing that I was going to talk to you today. For me, it all starts when I was 8 years old, honestly. Music was always in my house, and my house was very musical. My mom and dad listened to music. I have two older sisters. They both listen to music, but different stuff, and, I remember being 7 years old and going to this, summer camp where they take you camping and everything, and some older kid was listening to Kiss, and that was my first sort of wow. But it was not even so much the music, because I did Kiss, but they weren't the ones that really blew my mind or anything, but it was more of the makeup and the visual and everything. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty cool. But when it really started was I remember it, man. 1980, I was 8 years old, and I heard Back in Black for the very first time, and it was I was playing baseball at Little League. The coach's son was a teenager, and he was hanging out at the park, and we were getting ready for practice, and he had a tape deck, and he had AC/DC going, and I was like, what is that? I remember it to this day, dude, so vividly. Fuck it, and I felt it, and I begged my sister, please, can you buy me this album? It's called Back in Black, and she did. And that's really what started it, but it really took a whole nother turn for me. Same year when I heard Van Halen, man. Van Halen, Women and Children first album, 1980, same year. 1980 was an amazing year for metal, dude. If you ever go back and look at it, how many great albums came out in that year. Women and Children first, and then I went and looked at the earlier catalog of Van Halen. And dude, I've been a fan ever since. So I'm grieving a little bit today. Hence the tribute to my boy Eddie.
And that's it, dude. I texted you about that because it's such it's such a hard thing for me. Man, I think maybe it's just that I have no empathy because I don't get I don't feel bad for people when they die. If I don't know them personally, dude, when friends are sick or whatever or dying, that hits me hard. But if it's someone I don't know, and even people that I've looked up to, I don't have it. But I understand it. Like I get it. So especially someone's, I mean, because you're a lifelong fan. Like, so how many times did you see Van Halen? Did you see?
1982 Diver Down tour, 10 years old, my first concert ever. 14th row on the floor at the LA Forum, dude. First concert, I was a kid, dude. People putting up bud all around. I mean, I was like, my eyes were this big, man. And I just remember the sound being so freaking loud, dude. I mean, like where my ears were ringing for days. I mean, probably shouldn't have been there as a 10-year-old.
Did your parents take you?
My mom bought the tickets, and we had a family friend who lived just down the street. He was already like a college age guy. My parents said, you know, if you take him, you know, we'll buy you the ticket. And he was like, oh, hell yeah. He was a Van Halen guy. And me and another buddy, but my buddy was 5 years older than me. My buddy, Alex Padilla, man. And we, the three of us went, and it was, I mean, I've never turned back. So you know, concerts are still a big deal to me. Like, I still love the live show, man. And it sucks during this time not to have that. But yeah, I saw Van Halen, you know, then I saw him on the 1984 tour, and I was really more of a David Lee Roth guy. So when he left the band, and I didn't feel the same about it. You know, I've learned to appreciate it more now, but back then I was staunch. Like, if it ain't DLR, I'm not with it, you know?
Yeah.
But then I saw them when they reunited, you know, every time they were in town. I never missed it.
Did they do, was it them that was on like Monsters of Rock or some major?
Yeah, big headlining with Metallica and everybody.
Did you go to that one? And
I did not go to that, but you know, I know a lot of people who did, and they said it was a great show.
Well, because you're gonna be super pissed at me, because I went with Mike and some other people. I didn't know who, but I remember just being trashed. And then I think Van Halen went on last.
Yeah,
so after Metallica were like, let's get the fuck out of here.
I'm not surprised, dude. I'm not shocked.
You know what? Van Halen's awesome. Whenever I hear their music, like, I really enjoy it. But I was never I don't know, probably because I don't know. To me, I think I was more into the whole leather and just
that's exactly right. That's the difference. You know what I mean? And I think that's where Van Halen they were a party band. But honestly, that's what they were. They, you know, they had a heavy tinge, but they weren't. I wouldn't even call them metal. I would call them just hard rock party music, because it was, you know, it was more. It had more groove, had more swing, and for me, like, that's, you know, we totally vibe on music. I mean, we do. We've been to a lot of shows together. We have a lot of common ground. But I think where we're different is that you lean more towards the harder edge, and I lean more towards the hard rock and metal that is a little more groovy, you know, has a little more melody and stuff like that. So Van Halen kind of took me on that, and AC/DC, because AC/DC has a groove throughout, man, and that's kind of what got me started.
Yeah, no, I think, because your musical interests, and that's one thing with me too. I was very stunted in what I would listen to. Like, it was only metal and only the hard stuff, and so much of it was like this bullshit identity thing. But you introduced me to a lot of music, because I know you were listening to like Morrissey or like a lot when we were in high school, and so just different types of music. And then you were probably, I think, almost positive you're the one that introduced me to like Tool and that type of music. That's probably some of my favorite stuff now.
I mean, my musical taste, like I said, music is near and dear to me, man, and so I listen to a lot of stuff. You know, my musical interests range a lot. It all comes sort of full circle back to hard rock. Like, that's where my favorite. If you put a gun in my head and I had to name my 10 favorite bands or whatever, 8 of them are probably on, you know, in the metal or hard rock genre. But, you know, I listen to everything, you know, I dabbled as playing in bands, you know, so, you know, we weren't a metal band, you know, we played more on the rock stuff. And so, my musical interests really do vary from, you know, I could kind of trace the trajectory, like how it worked for me. So it was, you know, that early, you know, 80s hard rock, you know, Crew, Rat, all that sort of stuff that in the early 80s. that sort of bridged me to punk. Like I really got into punk, like, late junior high, like 7th, 8th grade, Circle Jerks, GBH, those kinds of bands, Germs. And then, moving on, into when we were in high school and stuff, that's where I sort of branched out a little bit more. I'll always listen to the stuff, but, also listen to a lot of, new wave music. Wasn't too much into like all the disco and stuff that was going around. That wasn't me. Never was.
Yeah.
Always, bands that played instruments. That's it for me, because when I listen to music, I really drill down to the component parts. Like that's how my brain instantly goes to what's the bass player doing? What's the drummer doing? And for whatever reason, I think that's why I love live shows, is because I get to totally fixate on what these guys are doing, because it blows my mind how talented these dudes are.
You know what? That's only something I've appreciated probably in the last couple of years. Like I noticed at the last couple of shows, and I think especially Metallica that we went to, but actually paying attention and trying to see what they're doing, because I've been trying to teach myself. Like it's pointless. I should actually take real classes. But ever since I started that, I definitely appreciated it more, whereas before I was just like, oh, I like how it sounds. But yeah, now I kind of like to see it. I want to talk about the band, because I don't think I was around for any of that. Like, so when did you first have any interest in being in a band? Like, did you do it with the hopes of like maybe making it big and being a rock star? Because I think that's when I was at Brown or JC or whatever. So I missed all that.
So it started pretty much right after high school. So, we went to Ahmad, had to keep the hair tight and all that to kind of limit what you can do as far as how you dress and all of that. So, at the tail end of high school, I already started to kind of let my hair grow. So right when we walked off that campus, it was like, okay, I could be myself now, and it was like, I have, buddies that I grew up with that, didn't go to Ahmad and stuff, that were into music, really like, trying to pursue it and stuff. And I didn't really play anything at the time, like in high school. But, right after graduation, my buddy's like, dude, you gotta, let's do something, pick up an instrument. So, we knew some drummers already. There's no way I was going to be good enough to play guitar. So I jumped into bass and basically just sat in my room for long time, and just banged away listening to, at the time, this was probably like 1990, 1991, listening to a lot of like the Cult and GNR and stuff like that, and just trying to learn those just straight ahead rock and roll kind of tracks. And, once it's all by ear, man, like I've never taken a lesson either, but was good enough to, play, you name a club in Hollywood, we probably played it, and a lot of backyard parties. And it didn't, and, to go back to your question, no, it was never to make it big. It was a good time. I was, young and, 18, 19, 20, just having fun, bro, just partying.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think it'd be super cool. Playing guitar or bass, like that's something I never thought I could even do. It just seemed like it was like, that's not even possible. I never thought I had the desire, but I do enjoy it, man. Like lately I had limited time, but I was like, I got to try to squeeze it in. So if nothing else, it'll help me relax.
It does. It kind of occupies your mind, and takes you away a little bit. And it was pretty cathartic for me back in those days too, because as you know, my dad had a pretty bad work-related accident after we graduated, like August of '90, and it was a tough time, man. Like it was pretty crazy. So that's about the time that I was starting to teach myself how to play, and it was a good way to sort of get rid of the anxiety and the stress that was happening. It's
awesome. Something I was just thinking about today, because I was trying to think of what I was into, like in ninth grade. And I don't know if it was ninth grade or 10th grade, but I know we listened to it all the damn time with Ryan when he was driving Guns N' Roses. Man, like that record will always be stuck in my head.
Stuck, dude. Like I can't hear Mr. Brownstone without thinking of, his Mazda or whatever he used to have, dude, and picking us up for football practice in the morning, summer mornings.
Yeah.
Vivid, dude. I think he would just rewind that tape, started from the first song, because by the time he got to my house, after picking you up, it was on the exact same song, exact same part. It was like clockwork, dude. But
yeah, that was rough. But I mean, I enjoyed the album at the time, but just not that many fucking times. And associating it with something that was brutal, like having to go to football practice, Hell Week or whatever.
Getting picked up at like 5:45 in the morning in the summer when all our non-football friends were freaking asleep, dude, and we had to go punch in. But hey, makes you stronger, I guess, right?
Yeah. That and traumatic brain injury stuff. Thanks, football.
That's for your other podcast. We're not talking.
Let's keep this one metal. Also, and then there was a period, I don't remember how old we were, but where we would play, I don't know, Madden all the time, right? And so there would always be music involved. Like, what do you think we were listening to then?
Let's see. That was probably a lot of Tool. I'm trying to, probably like Rage Against the Machine, Tool, like that whole sort of post-grunge 90s music that was happening. I mean, I loved like Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, all that stuff. We were probably listening to some of that too. I really dug all that. So like going back to like when my band was playing around, we kind of got started like around 91. So it was still hair metal, like was still big on the strip, in LA. So it was kind of a weird time in between when that was still happening and when, Nirvana hadn't even broke yet. It was like that weird space where once Nirvana came, it just flipped the script on what was happening in local music and stuff. So yeah, it was kind of like what killed a lot of the fucking big hair and makeup bands that were still working around town. So yeah, we were listening to probably most of that stuff. Definitely Tool. That was one of the cool things about when I was playing around. I got exposed to a lot of stuff that was happening before it got big. So
that's cool. Now, how about with shows? Like, how important are live shows to you? And would you rather see someone in a small venue? Would you rather discover someone at a little club? Do you like the huge arenas? I mean, because like when our last show that I think we saw together was Metallica, and that was an incredible show, even though we were all fucking squished together and high up and, whatever. That's not my ideal thing. It was still cool, but like, so for you, what kind of experience is the most meaningful? Like, and what are some of your favorite concerts you've seen?
Yeah, that's a big question.
Yeah.
Now, to me, the live show, that's it. That's everything. The experience, that's a moment in time that you'll never get back. You know what I mean? So like I treat concerts, I don't want to say with a lot of reverence, but when I'm there, I really try to absorb what's happening because, this will never happen again, and the people that you're in there with, they're sharing the same experience, whatever that, that lead singer says, or, just whatever happens quirky in the show, or just if a band is on that night and just fucking kicks ass, you walk away with that experience that only the people that were in that room can share, And so to me, the venue size doesn't matter. Obviously, they could be more intimate when they're small, but then also if you're with 18,000 people and the band has you right here, dude, there's nothing like that. That's like church, dude. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. Now, how about a couple, and also, how many do you think you've been to? Because I was just thinking, I was like, even if I only went to 3 a year for the last 33 years, that's 199. And I know you've gone to a hell of a lot more.
Dude, it'd be hard to even guess. I mean, if you're talking like Ticketmaster, type shows, it's in the hundreds. I mean, I've kept a lot of stubs, probably about half the stubs. And, I actually have them displayed in my man cave and stuff. Dude, it's a lot. It's a lot. And not to mention shows where, either it was wristband only or, stub went in the wash, or that kind
Yeah.
of. So if I had to put a number to it, God, 250 probably.
Yeah.
Like there was a time, like I look back, especially like in like 91, 92, 93, that time period. Literally, like there were shows, like multiple shows per month, like Ticketmaster type shows, like big venue shows.
Mhm.
My credit card took a beating in those days, man, but I that's a big deal for me, and I couldn't miss. I had to be there. I saw some great stuff, man.
I was just thinking about this. So at that time, I was actually going to a lot of shows, but I was getting paid because I was doing security just for that reason.
Yeah.
So I got to see like Pantera and so many awesome shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely a cool part of it. Okay, so now what out of let's go metal. What are do you have like a couple festivals or favorite concerts that you really hit you?
Man. Yeah, for sure, dude. Let me narrow it down because there's a few. Not all of them in the metal genre, but I'll keep it to that. Damn. That Pantera show that with White Zombie that we all went to.
That's the one I don't remember.
Fucking amazing show, dude. Like unreal. Another one that blew my mind was also White Zombie was on the bill for this one too. Danzig and White Zombie Halloween night, like 90, probably like 92, 93 at Irvine Meadows. Phenomenal. What else? Definitely the first Van Halen show, but we already went over that. What else?
How about between Maiden? Was Maiden big for you at all for concerts?
Oh, dude, Maiden, especially my like Peace of Mind, that album, that's 83.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, totally. That's another 1980. The first Maiden album came out 1980 also. So
see, I wasn't exposed. I didn't have the early start like you did. The very first band I heard that opened my eyes was probably, I don't know, when did Hell's Bells come out? Or
that was 80. That was on Back in Black.
Okay. So I guess it was right around that time then, because I'm pretty sure that's the song I heard, but My Next Door Neighbor. But after that, I didn't hear anything until Mike brought home Maiden. And in the meantime, I was having to hear like fucking Duran Duran and shit like that.
Your older sister,
Duran,
right? Yeah, I get it, dude. Like, but it was cool because like I had a sister that was more into like the R&B kind of stuff. My oldest sister, and then my middle sister, she dabbled a little bit more. So like she had some kind of cool stuff that also kind of turned me on. Like she had Nugent, she had like Pretenders, like stuff that maybe isn't metal, but it definitely has a rock sensibility. And so I got exposed to a lot of cool stuff, and then helped me just fucking, once I heard that stuff I already talked about, it was on, man. And no, but Maiden, the Peace of Mind album was the first one that I got into. Flight of Icarus, fuck.
Oh yeah.
Just kept hitting rewind on the tape on that one, dude. And then, I just have been a Maiden fan ever since. Seen them multiple times, and talk about a live band, dude. They never disappoint. Their freaking show is off the hook, dude. Like they're old ass dudes now, and they still bring it harder than all these chumps that are around now.
Yeah. No, I always liked the theatrics. I loved their shows. Dio, he would have like the big ass dragon, a spider, or whatever.
I saw them together.
Did you?
Yeah, same bill, man. It was those two bands. Jesus, probably like early 2000s. Some outdoor venue. I don't even remember which one, dude. But we were on the lawn, and what a show! Big group of us.
That's cool. I already took Liv already saw Maiden a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And then we had a super cool concert. We took her. She really liked 3 Days Grace and Breaking Benjamin. And so we went to that show. We took Jake too. He was only 6. But dude, it was such a cool experience. And we had like really good seats. And then the whole family was singing. Dude, you know me, I never even sing. But with them, I was singing. And so yeah, I think that's
being all grown up.
All right, so now let's go into a couple of concerts. because my memory sucks. Like you mentioned, the White Zombie and Pantera. Only thing I remember about that concert was my brother losing his shoe, and because I know we were in the pit, right?
Dude, that alone to like demonstrate how gnarly that pit was, dude. Like I've seen Slayer. I've been to a lot of really, dude, some of the most wicked, like Rage, especially like at small venues, those pits got freaking radical too. But man, that one for Pantera was sick, dude. The whole floor of the Forum was a tornado, dude. And I think we all took some battle scars home from that one. But yeah, your brother came out, missing stuff he came with.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I barely remember that. And I completely forgot about like how much I used to love getting in the pit. Like, I don't know. So what are some other shows that we did? So the last one was Metallica.
Yeah.
Early on, I do remember one. I remember we painted our faces. Ozfest. So we must have gone the year before, right? Because
that was Ozfest number 1, dude. That was the very first Ozfest ever.
So why did we think it was a smart idea to paint our faces? Like I was like, well, maybe it was the second one because maybe the last one we saw people with painted faces.
No, I think we were stoned for once.
And the program had just come out.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Ozfest. The bands that were there, like I think Manson was on the bill. I think Slayer was on. I mean, so it kind of lent itself to kind of I don't want to say goth, but like, it was going to be that kind of vibe. And somebody had the idea, hey, let's paint our faces. And fuck, all right, cool. And bad idea.
Yeah, I remember being really paranoid and
totally, man.
Totally. Yeah, that was a bad time. Yeah. But it was fun. It was a different kind of experience.
Yeah. So, that was and dude, I thought there were some more whacked out people than us there.
Oh yeah. There was a guy that was trying to touch my brother's shoe, right? He was like tripping out on it and just.
Dude, that guy was in a bad spot, man.
Good times.
It was. We still remember it.
Yeah, see, I remember that part of it. I don't remember, but like I couldn't remember any of that show. I remember the 5-second clip of that dude trying to touch my brother's shoe. I remember being paranoid and all this other stuff and think people were talking about me. But I don't remember
that happens. You made me think of you're talking about like shows that I remember that were just out of this world kind of thing. I was also at when Ozzy retired for the first time at Pacific Amphitheater, the very last show that he was supposed to have, the tour ended that night in, Orange County. And we were there, me and my buddy Mondo, you know him. We were there for that show, and, MTV was there covering it, like, cause this was it. This was supposed to be the end of Ozzy's, he was going to hang him up. And so the whole word on the street was that Sabbath the original Sabbath lineup was going to come out, and fuck, I was like, yeah, cool, dude. Because Sabbath, I mean, next to Van Halen, Sabbath is my all-time number 2 band. Like they set the stage for everything after that. So sure enough, dude, after Ozzy's done, everyone's hanging around, no one leaves, and the lights go down, but the stage lights stay on. We're like, yes, it's going to happen. And sure enough, dude, Sabbath, original Sabbath, who hadn't played together since Ozzy left the band, like 79 or whatever.
Oh, that's awesome.
And dude, blew my freaking mind. And it was supposed to be like a milestone event, right? Because Ozzy was supposed to hang it up after that. But dude, I've seen Sabbath with Ozzy like 3 more times since then.
Well, that's super cool to be the first ones to experience it. That's awesome. I can't think of any other shows. I know there were. I went with you and some of your boys to one. There's been a couple, but
Now we saw Tool together at
at
Universal Amphitheater. That was a great show, man. That was like which tour was that?
It was the one when he had his face painted in half.
Yeah, he was like half black, half white. Yeah, whatever tour that was, man. But it was like probably the 3rd album.
Yeah, dude, I could remember. I remember that one perfect. I remember that show. I remember that was probably one of my favorite shows. That's pretty amazing to be able to remember something that long ago. So
Yeah. I missed that amphitheater. That was the best place to watch a show, man, but it's gone now.
That sucks.
Unfortunately.
Now, do you check out any virtual shows? Have you checked anything at all? Is there?
I have it. I don't get the same vibe because you're not. To me, being there with the other people, that's part of the experience. Having to wait in line for beer and all like that's to me that's part of it, man. I dig the mass camaraderie that happens at a show. Some people don't. I do. To me that's the whole point. And to see if these bands that sound good on record can actually do what they sound like, and in this genre and nobody. It's rare that I'm disappointed. I can't remember the last band that I went, fuck, they suck, dude. Like they don't sound anything like what they sound like on the record. When these dudes master their instruments, like it's fun to watch.
Oh yeah. Now, how about what's your listening like now? Have you kind of mellowed out with age? You just go through different maybe in the morning you have a lot of energy. Like what are you usually listening to?
That's a good question, man. I can't listen to terrestrial radio hardly anymore, although I do just to kind of try to stay up on what's happening, but rock stations in LA suck, dude. I mean, KLOS is cool because you listen, it's basically, classic rock now. Like it's stuff that we kind of grew up on. They don't expose any new music. Like you don't hear it. They might have an hour-long show on a Sunday night or whatever for local music or whatever. But it's cool. So I listen to a lot of Sirius XM for my own stuff. Yeah, I listen to Sirius a lot. Basically all the hard rock channels from, Lithium, Hair Nation, Boneyard, and Liquid Metal. Basically I run through those four over and over just to see what's got a better tune on. First wave, because I still dig, a lot of early new wave kind of stuff too. So I'll listen to that. And plus my CD library before, CDs kind of just went to MP3. I had hundreds and hundreds of CDs that I basically just ripped into my computer. So I have an iPod Classic, the fucking whatever it is, 20 gig one or whatever. And it's just, I've got 7,000 songs on it, probably. Yeah. And so it's cool. I could just, whatever, if I'm in the mood for something. And then I've also got Amazon Alexa. And so if a song just comes to mind, play it and there it is.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I've been going through CDs and trying to think of, because every day this month I'm doing a different band. But yes, looking at all the old CDs reminds me of a lot of stuff. And then when I'm going to talk about the band, I go through their albums again. So it's kind of cool. It's something I would never do. Today I was listening to Hatebreed all day. And yesterday was Manowar. And man, I don't know the last time I even thought of those bands. And then it's cool to see okay, what did I even like about them? Why was I even into that and that? So
I think a lot of it is imagery and the image that you want to portray too, especially in high school. You know what I mean? And I remember, in high school, I still listen to a lot of the same stuff you listen to because you would turn me on to shit, I would turn you on to shit, but you kind of stayed true to the metal, dude. You never wavered from flying the metal flag. It was you and maybe two other dudes in school that were staunch, bro. You were really all about it. And my persona wasn't that, but I was always had my ear to it. And so, you mentioned that I exposed you to some bands and stuff, but you did the same for me, man. And even to this, it's funny. I remember we were hanging out, playing all the video games and stuff. And so we were listening to a lot of Pantera, Down, Machine Head. We were during that time period, we were listening to a lot of that stuff. And I remember, because I didn't look it, I didn't dress it or whatever. And I went to a football game with Razzo's crowd. And he's a cop. And so he had some cop buddies there that were, they were metal dudes or whatever. And they were playing music and we were tailgating and I was like, oh shit, that's cool. That's blah, blah, blah. And they're like, fuck, how do you know all that? And Roz knows that I'm I'm a music guy, right? And some of the other guys that knew me better knew it too. So like they were playing all this stuff, and I was like, yeah, cool. That's a sweet band. Like, who's in it and everything. They're like, fuck, how do you know that? So finally, like one time he's like, all right, dude, $1 million if you could freaking name who this is. And it was Machine Head. I'm like, dude, that's fucking Machine Head. Like instantly. And he was like, what? And everyone was cracking up, dude, because like that dude owes me $1 million.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That makes me feel good. It warms my heart.
Yeah, dude. I owe you half.
All right, that's sweet. Well, I probably should go. I got to take care of the kid, make sure that he's asleep and all that good stuff. But dude, thanks for being on. This is awesome catching up. We should just do these more often.
I know.
Before I go out, I need to pick a song. So I'm going to give you some choices. I'll give you ones that are named after metal songs. So these are from Untold Mayhem. The ones that are left are damn, you don't have much to pick from. You either got Numbered Days, which is based off of like a Biohazard song, just the title. Dead to Me, also Biohazard. Last in Line, Dio, or Left Unfinished, Machine Head.
Let's go with Dio, man.
All right, that's what I was guessing. I was gonna guess Dio. It's not my favorite story, but hopefully, the listeners will enjoy it. All right, so this is Last in Line off of Untold Mayhem. Thank you so much, Marc Saenz, for being my guest today. Awesome hanging out, dude.
All right, bro.
Last in Line. Warren Zeller clenched his fists as he stood at the back of the line that wound its way through the dark alley. He'd been the last in line all his life. In elementary school, everything was done in alphabetical order. In junior high, before his growth spurt, he was picked last for every sport. In high school, he was the last guy to kiss a girl, and last by far to get laid. When he grew older and realized that no one gave two shits about him, Warren took fate into his own hands and joined the Cabrera Cartel, one of the most feared organizations on the East Coast. Sure, for the first couple of years he was always last to benefit, but as the sole white guy in a Colombian organization, that was to be expected. In the beginning, they fed him table scraps and only allowed him glimpses of the beautiful whores the cartel shared like other families might share a remote control. He was the last to pick from the spoils of any robbery, and considered himself lucky whenever he got a taste of uncut cocaine. But Warren persevered, and undertook every assignment with such enthusiasm and conviction that soon he was respected, and even feared by the same men giving him the commands. No one tortured and killed like Warren, and those that did not know of Warren's reputation could take one look at his hardened face and realize they should stay the fuck out of his way. But somehow, despite all the advances he'd made in his life, here he was once again, the last in line. Even though Warren couldn't remember why he was in this ridiculously long line, he wasn't about to tolerate it. He'd spent his whole life clawing his way to the top, and he wasn't about to wait behind a bunch of pathetic losers. Warren stepped to the side of the unmoving mass and peered down the dark alley, unable to see the head of the line. At first, he had thought they were waiting to get into an exclusive nightclub, but half of the people in line were degenerates in ratty clothing. In harsh contrast, many others wore business suits, and the remainder looked like average suckers you'd see walking the street. This wasn't the first time that Warren had regained consciousness without being able to remember what he was doing or how he had gotten there. That was one of the drawbacks of using so much blow. He hated when this happened, but the journey was so much more enjoyable when his head was in a white cloud. When he was high, he didn't think about his repulsive face. He didn't think about his tiny cock. He didn't think about how the others in the cartel laughed at him behind his back because they were too afraid to do so in front of him. All he thought about was the next job and how good it would feel to end that person's life. Sometimes he'd even get hard when he considered new, exciting, and so painful ways to kill. Fists still clenched, Warren shouldered past the scrawny man in front of him. He didn't look to the guy for an okay. He didn't say, "Excuse me." He simply pushed ahead, knowing that the guy would either be a wimp and let it slide, or he would open his mouth and get a fist rammed down it. Predictably, the pussy didn't say a word. Neither did the next 5 guys standing silently in line. As he moved forward, Warren checked their faces, hoping to jar his memory. It wouldn't do for him to get inside wherever they were headed and not remember who he was there to kill. Upset at himself for forgetting the identity of his target, Warren bumped the big leather-clad biker in front of him. The 6'6" giant turned around and glared at Warren. Not one to back down from a confrontation, Warren stared back and waited. When the big man broke eye contact, Warren said, "Tell me where we're going and how long you've been in line." A mocking smile crept across the biker's face. "You're standing in line and you don't know why?" Without warning, Warren threw a vicious roundhouse, cracking the guy's jaw with a loud snap and dropping him to the trash-strewn concrete. With the spectators too scared to stop him, Warren launched steel-toed kicks into the giant's face until it was unrecognizable. No one said a word as the wet thuds muffled the sound of breaking bones. Warren stopped the attack and walked down the line, just waiting for some other asshole to question him. It didn't take long before a punk in a cheap pinstripe stuck out his arm and said, "Where do you think you're going?" The guy obviously hadn't been close enough to see the savage beating Warren had just handed out. But that was no excuse. When someone poked their nose where it didn't belong, they had to pay the price. Warren hooked his arm over the guy's forearm and jerked backward, snapping his elbow, bending it in a direction God never intended. Before the guy could scream, Warren slammed his forehead into the guy's mouth, knocking out several teeth. Not one to leave a job unfinished, Warren bashed the guy's head into the brick wall until it was the consistency of a rotten cantaloupe. Warren wiped blood and brain matter onto his slacks and shouted down the line, "Who else thinks I should stay at the back of the line, huh? Which one of you pussies doesn't want me cutting ahead?" He glared at the line, daring someone to say something. Instead, everyone lowered their heads in submission. Taking his time, Warren stalked down the dark alley, hoping someone would challenge him. He also hoped his mind would clear and he could remember why he was in the goddamn line in the first place. As he neared the entrance, where guards were slowly letting people through a red door, Warren finally remembered the identity of his target. Bobby Mendoza had intercepted 2 of the cartel's shipments, containing over $2 million in cash and coke. Warren picked up his pace, strode up to the larger of the security guards, and demanded to be admitted. The guard held up his hands and smiled. "I've got no problem with that." He pointed over Warren's shoulder and said, "But that guy might." Anticipating a sucker punch, Warren turned with his hands up. It was Bobby, patiently waiting at the front of the line. He recognized Warren, but didn't seem concerned in the least. He also didn't reach for a weapon, almost as if he had already accepted his impending death. Wanting a fair fight was never one of Warren's weaknesses. In his line of work, it didn't matter if your target was ready. It didn't matter how you won. This wasn't some duel out in the desert. You take your target out quick, before he knows what hit him. When the slightest error could end up leaving you dead, permanently injured, or in prison, you couldn't waste time on ethics. Bobby was one hell of a knife fighter, and it would be smart to keep out of reach. This job required one well-placed bullet and a quick escape, leaving eyewitnesses confused and scared. Warren reached for his waistband, but his .40 wasn't in the holster. It didn't make any sense. Warren would never leave the house without his piece, and he couldn't remember dropping it. His stomach clenched in anticipation of a plunging knife. But the strike never came. Bobby stood motionless and stared at Warren with vacant, resigned eyes. Warren threw a crushing elbow across Bobby's face, sent him stumbling. A crowd formed behind Bobby, who held his nose to stop the blood flow. Warren reached down for his ankle holster, but his backup wasn't there either. Bobby held up his hands and said, "Hold up, man. There's no need to do this again. Go on in, Warren. You deserve to go ahead of me anyway." Warren now noticed that Bobby's once white dress shirt was stained crimson and riddled with over half a dozen bullet holes. A fuzzy memory of knocking Bobby to the ground and emptying his gun into him left Warren speechless. At first he thought it was a dream, but Warren now clearly remembered standing over Bobby, firing round after round into him. "I killed you," Warren said, confused. "No shit. What are you doing back?" "Who says I'm back? I'm just waiting my turn." Warren glanced at the red door and the 2 guards standing on either side, beckoning Warren to enter. "For what?" He turned back to Bobby. "What's in there?" "The place you've been hurrying to get to. All your life you've worked toward getting here, and now it's finally your turn. By all means, you should go ahead of me." Warren replayed the memory. After shooting Bobby, he had sat down on the curb and dropped his backup .38 onto the street. It wasn't like him to stay around after a murder, especially such a noisy one. But he was lying down on the cold sidewalk. His chin dropped to his chest. There were several punctures in his torso. The hilt of Bobby's blade stuck deep between his ribs. Warren shook his head to clear the memory. The knife was still lodged in his heart. He ripped it out and tossed it down the alley. One guard called his name while the other opened the door, a wave of heat smacking Warren in his face. The larger guard smiled and motioned Warren forward.
This has been a presentation of the Project Entertainment Network.